You are the love of your life. If I say you are the love of your life, is that a challenging concept, or do you accept that that is who you are, that you are the love of your life? Or are you still in a position where you feel that you are seeking for that well-being feeling, for that feeling of connection outside of yourself first before you feel whole as an individual? And I say this because I spent years, many, many years, where I was putting other people first. And yet I was wondering, why are my relationships not working the way that I want, where I felt that it was totally out of balance? It was from my personal relationship to my relationship with my parents, my siblings. It felt a bit out of whack. And all of that because I was pouring onto others and expecting that to be the reason why I felt whole, that I felt complete, that I felt that I mattered, or that I was enough. Until in one of my relationships, 11-year relationship, I finally recognized that what I was pouring, I needed to actually pour onto me, because I myself needed my own love and attention, the respect that I deserved, the attention that I deserved. I needed to do that to myself first. And then I had this pivotal moment where one of my friends, I really believed that he recognized that something seemed off with me. Although I was someone who was somewhat vibrant, I was energetic, I was taking care of myself, but mentally, he can tell that something was really off. And he bought me a book, this book. He gave me The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. This book changed my life. And in this book, as I recognize, all the chapters are wonderful, and they really raise a question into how we are living, and they open up my path to spirituality. But I remember the chapter of detachment, chapter number 6, the law of detachment, changed my life because I didn't know it was possible to detach from a situation with love, that you can detach from situations that are hurting you in a way that you don't have to be angry, you don't have to expect someone to behave a certain way, because you start to pour more onto yourself and allow people to be who they are. I read that chapter so many times to really understand what is detachment. What is detachment with love? When you are detaching from something without expectations, and yet you want things to go a certain way. But that was my path to freedom, because when I did that, I started to behave differently. I began taking care of myself, where I recognized that I needed to exercise differently. I needed to take care of my mind, because sometimes we think that if I exercise, I eat well, I'm going to be fine. But there's that portion, that element that often we're not aware, that when our minds are not good, when we are having challenges that are mentally draining, it starts to affect our bodies, because our body and minds are so connected that when our minds are not aligned with the heart and how you're feeling, you can work out every single day, you can eat really well, somehow your health still doesn't get optimized, because mentally you are also creating uh, this harmony with yourself. That means that you can still feel unwell. And I know that because I felt unwell, and I felt unwell for a long time, where I would develop headaches and I didn't know where the headaches were coming from. I remember for an entire year I had a headache, where every time I would go out in my relationship, I developed a headache. I mentioned that to my mother, and I don't think she understood, but she just said, just take Tylenol. But I felt like something was really off, because I can take Tylenol, my headache just lingered. And it was that pounding headache that just wouldn't go away. But as soon as I would get home and I would have that space of time by myself, I felt well again. So I kept studying the pattern, why that was happening. When I was gifted this book, I started reading, I started practicing spirituality. That means I started going to the gym and doing yoga. And the process of doing yoga, I felt this connection with myself that I didn't expect to feel before, because I was sort of a gym rat in a way. I was lifting weights, I did cardio, but then yoga was the additional piece in my workout that felt connected beyond my body. It connected my mind to also become more aware of my own feelings in my body. And as I did that, I started to feel better, more balanced in a way. And then I was able to make the biggest decision of my life at that time, which is end my relationship and focus on the path of healing and well-being. And when I did that, I started to feel more empowered, more like me. I started to recognize who I really was, this brave girl that I remember being since I was a kid, and yet I was stuck in this situation that I didn't know how to make decisions, how to take action, as if the bravery had gone away because I allowed so much chatter into my mind, so much information from other people to tell me what I couldn't do, who I needed to be. I felt I was being someone that it wasn't who I was. For a long time, I remember going places and I didn't feel that I could be friendly or I could be smiling to others because of this controlling behavior that was just happening around me. But when I began taking care of myself, I freed myself from that cage, as if the path to wellness, to self-love was really important, because the more I took care of my mind and my body, the more connected I felt to myself. And as I did that, I started to feel more empowered to continue to make those decisions that were aligned with myself. And I remember choosing the friends that I wanted to hang around. The ones that I didn't feel good around them, I kind of just let it go to the wayside. I chose who I wanted to be around. And at one point, I felt so good that I started to empower others. Today, I believe that that was my path to the start of changes for me. That was in 2010. I changed so much from that moment, including how I went after my work, how I was brave in terms of putting my name out there for positions, for other things. The bravery that I used to have as a child, that I remember during the war zone, what I did as a child reminded me my capabilities. I was able to recognize who I was, that I was no longer being, and I needed not to be incongruent with who I was, that brave girl, to make decisions that even when they're hard, when they challenge, I know it was a path for healing, it was a path for growth. And the more I did, the more I grew as an individual, as a person who knew how to walk into my path, how to make the decisions that really change my world, but in at the same time it was changing others, because the people around me, my sisters, etc., they would see who I was. They also started to become braver, because the braver I became, the braver other people around me became. It's almost like this awakening process of, we have this power that sometimes we allow someone else to dim our lights, but because of us allowing it, it happens. But once you take it back, when you recognize who you are and that you have all this power to make choices, to create the future the way that you want, you can shift your future, the reality that you have at that moment. And I didn't just accept people because they wanted to take me in at that moment. I made my own choices to say, this is not what I want. This is not aligned with who I am. I started to make better choices. Today, I empower others because I know the power that it takes once you start to recognize that harmony that you have to have with your mind, with your body, with your, it's like being conscious of the unconscious, the behavior that we do unconsciously when we allow someone else or other people, situations, society to tell you who you need to be. But then you start to decide, you know who you are, and you're going to pursue the things that you know you are capable of doing. That's the reason why today I empower others, because I know what it takes, and also what keep us stuck sometimes from making the toughest decisions, especially when it comes to relationship, because relationship is the center of it all. And when we feel that we're not walking into our power, or we are in a relationship that is no longer serving us, we end up feeling stuck in almost every area of our lives. But when that area is flourishing, you also flourish on all the other areas. When it comes to your health, to your mindset, you flourish because that area is in harmony, and your body also gets healthier because you have this harmony with your body and your mind. So it's really important to recognize where you are and what are the things that you are allowing to limit you, to limit your light, to limit your ability to live the life that you truly want. What are the things that are limiting you in ways that you are accepting, but maybe you haven't recognized or you haven't agreed that that is actually limiting you. So I want you to recognize that you've always been the love of your life, that amazing love and feeling that you have on the inside comes because it always existed internally. But sometimes we think that it's a person, it's a situation that is bringing that for us. So I'll tell you this, just like the movie Eat, Pray, Love, when I met my husband, I was in such a good place that I was actually afraid of going to the next relationship because I felt by being in this relationship, I might lose myself again. And I just really love getting to know who I am and where I am. That it did take some thinking and some acceptance. But it was, of course, the best decision because the next chapter was about growth with my husband, who I then met about 8 months later after all these changes that I made. He came in, he was in a good place, I was in a good place. It felt as if two whole beings were coming together and we connected in a way that not only created a good foundation, we also created this friendship that is so required in our relationship because typically we have that passion, love in the beginning. But then in the next 2 to 5 years, you want to have also that deep friendship so that you feel that you are spending time with your best friend, that individual is someone that you can talk to about your darkness, your deepest dreams, desires, that you feel connected and also that you feel safe, supported, free to be you with another person, but without losing who you are. Because when you recognize that you have the harmony within yourself and you know that this person brings that out of you, you also tend to realize that you are healthy enough to know that you are generating this amazing feeling because you are love on the inside. So, as Wayne Dyer says, when you squeeze an orange, it comes orange juice because that's what's in it. For a person, if you are in a place where you feel disconnected or maybe you feel fear, when you get squeezed, fear comes out of you. When you get squeezed, if you are desperate, when you get squeezed, desperation comes out of you. But when you are in harmony with yourself and you love who you are and you are falling back in love with who you are, when you get squeezed, love comes out. Be love. Be someone who's a giver of good energy, of time, of attention to others. As you pour onto others, you are also pouring onto you because you're pouring good things. But what I recognize is when you pour great things into yourself, that means paying attention to your body, mind, connection, and your spirituality at the same time, and you're taking great care of yourself, you also stand in a better place to shift the reality for yourself and for others because your energy as an individual who is walking into your power also start to shift the people around you. That means you become more magnetic. You also support others to live their truth, and you tend to give the safe space for others the same way you give to yourself. So as you become love, you also have more love to give. So I would ask you, how are you being kind to yourself? Because what I learned from everything that I went through, the decisions that I made, is that taking care of us is really key. Taking care of paying attention to yourself, loving who you are fully, flaws and all, accepting that that is what makes you beautiful, that all the challenges that you may have gone through is what makes you this magnetic individual, and accepting that that is part of the awakening of who you are. And the more you recognize that, you start to realize that you've always been love. And the path to loving others is really loving you first. When you love others in a deeper way, in a more empowering way, and also in a way that just makes sense and it feels good, that you're not trying so hard and you don't feel that you're going to ever lose yourself because you don't forget who you are. And I hope that this resonated with you and that it means something to you. Mwah.